السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Okay, alhamdulillah. Okay, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. والصلاة والسلام على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين نبينا وحبيبنا محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. أما بعد، اليوم 29 من شهر صفر 1442 الموافق ل 17 من شهر أكتوبر 2020. بإذن الله تعالى we will continue with our noble cause بإذن الله تعالى. أسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى أن يبارك في المجهود ويتقبل منا القليل ويغفر عنا الزلات. Today بإذن الله تعالى I will be dealing with the following terms or terminologies, and we will be learning a brief about Sharika and the types of Sharika such as Sharikatul Amwal, Sharikatul Inan, Sharikatul Mufawada, Sharikatul Milk, and Al-Munaqasa, Sharikatul Wujuh, and Sharikatul Mudaraba, Khiyarul Naqd, and the last thing to be studied is the Atada. بإذن الله تعالى. The first one, as you see, is about the partnership. Partnership, which is the Sharika, we call it partnership. الشركة في اللغة أن يكون الشيء بين اثنين فصاعدا لا ينفرد به أحدهما وكل واحد من المتشاركين يسمى شريكا. What is partnership in Arabic? I mean, what does an Arab man means when he talks about the word partnership or sharika? When he uses the word sharika, what does he mean by that? They said this is used by the Arabs when you have people who are sharing the ownership, who are jointly owning something, بحيث لا ينفرد به أحدهما، يعني يكون مشاعًا لا يتميز ملك أحدهما من الآخر. So they have two things or the three or more than that. They mix them all together in the way we cannot differentiate between this and that. We cannot just look at one side and say this is the portion that belongs to this and this is the portion that belongs to that. So usually Sharika takes place in this way. So according to the linguistic approach, when we say Sharika, we're talking about when you have two things, you have two things or one thing which is owned by two people or more than two people, and nobody knows what exactly is his portion. That's why in some places you will find the word musha being used. So we own house, for instance, me and some of you. So three of us, we own that house. Which part of this house belongs to me? Which part of this house belongs to so and so person? So this is what Sharika is all about. قال وكل واحد من المتشاركين يسمى شريكا. Each and every one of these people who are jointly owning something is called a partner, sharik. So we call him a partner, sharik, or a shareholder sometimes. So وكل واحد من المتشاركين يسمى شريكا. وفي اصطلاح الفقهاء فالشركة اجتماع في ملك أو تصرف. الاجتماع في الملك كالميراث، والاجتماع في التصرف يكون في شركة العقود أو شركات العقود. When it comes to the technical definition given to the word by the scholars of fiqh, they said this is when two or more people jointly own something. You combine two people in ownership of a thing. Okay, that is something which is owned by two or more than two. Each and every one of them has a share in that item, but we don't know who owns what. Okay, in some part of the partnership, we don't know who owns what. In some part of the partnership in Islam, we know who owns what. That's the reason why they divide partnership into two categories: Sharikat al-Amwal, Sharikat al-Amlak, or Sharikat al-Uqud. They have Sharikat al-Amlak or Sharikat al-Uqud. Two types of partnership: Sharikat al-Amlak, the Sharika that is mainly based on milk, and you have the Sharikat al-Uqud, which is contractual partnership. So each and every one of them will be discussed bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. So the example of Sharikat al-Amlak, when it comes to partnership in ownership, and you might have partnership in tasarruf, whereby each and every one of them has what you call permission given to him by the other partner to utilize, to put his hand to become an agent, in dealing with the item which is owned by his partner, okay, which is owned by his partner. That's the tasarruf, disposal. So when it comes to Sharikat al-Amlak, one of the best examples for the Sharikat al-Amlak is the inheritance. Inheritance, let's say the father died and he left the children, two sons and one daughter. And unfortunately, he has only one house. So 2/3, this house is going to be divided into five parts, five shares. Each one of them will take two, and the girl will take one. But the house remains in the way it is. So they're partners. Let's say we divided the house. This from here until here belongs to this, and this one belongs to that. So they all own the house, and they have no option, because this is the ownership transferred to them by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they jointly own. There is no contractual partnership amongst them. They're partners by nature because they just found themselves receiving this item from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the way it is. So they're not jointly owning this property for the sake of business, for instance. They might turn it into business property, thing, but usually from the beginning it wasn't meant for that. And that's the reason why the scholar said in this type of partnership, none of them is an agent for the other one. Whatever he does, he has to do it in his own ownership. He cannot do anything with the ownership of his brother, the person who owns the item together with him, except with his permission, as we're going to see, inshallah. When it comes to the partnership in terms of contract, where they jointly own an item for the purpose of business, this is Sharikatu al-Uqud. One of the examples for this is Sharikatu al-Uqud. This one, it has a lot of examples. So when we reach that place, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, we will discuss in that matter, inshallah. So what I want you to understand here is that Sharika, when you hear about the word Sharika, it means partnership. Okay, according to the language, linguistically, when we say Sharika, we're talking about two people, three people who jointly own something in a way we don't know which part of the thing belongs to this and which part of the thing belongs to that. You get it? In Islam, also according to the fiqh, this literal meaning is not too far from the technical meaning. There are two types of ownership. two types of sharika, either sharika in terms of ownership or sharika in terms of contract. That's what they call Sharikat al-Uqud and Sharikat al-Amlak. Contractual kind of partnership, and also a partnership that is based on ownership. وتنقسم الشركة إلى شركة ملك وشركة عقد وفي كل منهما أقسام متعددة. And sharika is divided into two categories. You have Sharikatu Milk and you have Sharikatu Aqd. You have Sharikatu Milk and you have Sharikatu Aqd. And this is what I have said: Sharikatu Al-Uqud wa Sharikatu Al-Amlak. Sharikatu Al-Uqud wa Sharikatu Al-Amlak. Okay, that's the first thing, the Sharika. The next slide is about Sharikatu Al-Amwal. Okay, Sharikatu Al-Amwal, which is a type under the Sharikatu Al-Uqud. You have the Sharikatu Al-Amwal, which is a type, as I said, under the Sharikatu Al-Uqud. Sharikatu Al-Amwal, which is a type under the Sharikatu Al-Uqud. شركة الأموال في اصطلاح الفقهاء هي عقد بين اثنين فأكثر على أن يعملوا في رأس مال له ويكون الربح بينهما بنسبة معلومة وهي ثلاثة أقسام: عنان ومفاوضة ومضاربة. يعني شركة الأملاك شركة الأموال. This is the partnership, partnership and agreement of partnership between 2 or 3 or 4, 5, 10, whatever amount of people you have. يقول الفقهاء هي عقد بين اثنين فأكثر على أن يعملوا في رأس المال. Sorry, is a contract between 2 people or more than 2 people that they are going to participate in investing, a capital which is generated by them. Both of them participated in providing the capital according to whatever each and every one of them is able to provide, but they agree to participate in investment of the capital, to manage this capital, which is provided by both of them. ويكون الربح بينهما بنسبة معلومة. The condition is they are going to share the profit amongst them according to the ratio agreed upon by both of them. According to the best opinions of the scholars, it is up to them to agree with whatever they want. Some of them might take 50%, the other one 50%, some of them might take 50%, some of them might take 20%, some of them might take 10%, according to whatever amount they agree upon, which is not going to amount into gharar. The only thing is they shouldn't fix the profit. They cannot say you take 5,000 dinar, you take 6,000 dinar. This one is impermissible because it ends by having them taking them into clashes in the future in the case where that amount which is expected to be given to one of them is not generated, or it is the only thing that is generated. Then who goes with it? So Sharikat al-Amwal is nothing but it's a contract between 2 people or more than 2 people. على أن يعملوا في رأس مال لهم يكون الربح بينهما بنسبة معلومة وهي 3 أقسام. So this Sharikat al-Amwal is of 3 types. So we define it as a contract between 2 or 3 people. They participated and they provided a capital which they are going to invest in whatever product or business they agreed upon in between them, and they share the profit at the end of the day. Whenever the profit is generated, they come and share the profit according to whatever ratio they agreed upon. وهي 3 أقسام, and we have three types of this partnership. The first one is Sharikat al-Inan. The first type is Sharikat al-Inan. The second type is Sharikat al-Mufawada. The third type is Sharikat al-Mudaraba. The third type is al-Mudaraba. So we learned that Sharikat al-Amwal is participation in capital and management, right? Capital and management. It might be managed by one of them and then he got paid for that, but usually it is something that they provided both of them. They provided the capital and they provided the management between them. The next slide is Sharikatul Inan. So we are done with the Sharikatul Al-Amwal. If you remember, we said the contractual partnership is divided into 3 categories. Amwal, and the second category is Inan, and you have Mufawada. Okay. We divided the Sharikatul Uqud into Iddat Aqsam, right? And this is the Amwal, Inan, and Mudaraba. Sharikat al-Amwal, I'm sorry, we divide the Sharikat al-Amwal into 3 Aqsam, Inan, and Mufawada, and Mudaraba. Okay. Sharika in general, we said is divided into 2. Okay. Sharikat al-Uqud and Sharikat al-Amwal, Sharikat al-Amlak. We have Uqud, we have Amlak. Sharikat al-Uqud has several types of undate. You have Mudaraba, you have Wujuh, you have Inan, you have Inan, you have Wujuh, you have Mudaraba, you have Mufawada. These are all types of Sharikatu al-Uqud, as we're going to see, inshallah. So I'm trying to help bi'idhnillahi ta'ala so that you can put it in a proper position where you will easily memorize it bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So first we define the Sharika partnership. That means 2 or more people who jointly own something. Okay, whether that is a contract between them or it's just an ordinary, ownership, which none of them is acting as an agent for the other one. And this Sharika in general is divided into 2. You have Uqud, you have Amlak. Okay, you have Uqud, you have Amlak. And the Uqud is divided into several categories. Amwal, Sharikat al-Mufawada, Sharikat al-Wujuh, Sharikat al-Inan. You have Mudaraba also according to those who call it Sharika, as we're going to see, inshallah. So Sharika is divided into 2, Amlak and Uqud. Amlak is divided into 2. You have the voluntary, you have the non-voluntary or involuntary. Okay, that's the Amlak. We will talk about that bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So the first one we engage in discussing is Sharikat al-Amwal. What is Sharikat al-Amwal? You have 2 or more people, they agree to jointly own something or to participate in the business. So they provided the capital, and the capital came from both of them, regardless of the nature of the capital. Maybe some of them participated in 80% of the capital, some of them participated in 20%, or some of them 50, some of them 20, some of them 30. This is how they generated the whole capital, and they invested in the way they wanted, and they share the profit at the end of the day amongst them. So this Sharikat al-Amwal is divided into 3. You have Inan, undate, and you have Mufawada, and you have Mudaraba. Okay. The first one is Sharikat al-Inan. Sharikat al-Inan does the cooperative partnership. And this is the partnership which almost accepted by all the scholars. So if somebody asks you about the one that almost everyone agrees with, is Sharikat al-Inan. So what is Sharikat al-Inan? Al-Inan لغة من العنوان والمعاناة ومعناه الظهور والاعتراض ومنه عنان السماء أي ما ظهر للناظر منها. So when it comes to Sharikat al-Inan, what is Inan? When we are trying to get the literal meaning of the Inan, then we go back to the language to see what does an Arab man means when he mentions the word al-Inan. So we found it at the end of the day, whenever they mention the word al-Inan, usually it refers to al-Dhuhur wal-I'tirad. Al-Dhuhur wal-I'tirad. To have something, to expose something, to make it in a situation where it will be seen by anyone. It will be possible for others to see it. That's why you said Anan as-Sawa, ay ma dhahara lin-nadhari minha, the part of the heavens or the sky that is apparent, exposed for those people who are looking at it. The part you can see from the sky. وسميت به هذه الشركة لأن أحد الشركاء يتعرض لما عند الآخر فيشاركه فيه. And the reason why they call it شركة العنان, because one party is having the authority, and the authority, to be assigned by his partner to to use the share of the partner from the capital, to invest it. To make it clearer for you, if let's say I participated, according to the opinion that says we can use other than cash. There are some who said you must use cash, and there are some who said you can use kind also is okay, not necessarily cash, whether it is homogeneous or not non-homogeneous, it doesn't matter. So let's say I give my house. So everyone knows that this house is coming from me, and my partner is using the money. If we're participating in Sharikatsu, that means he has a right to take my car and sell it to somebody. This is what it means. Do have a right to take the property and the belonging of your partner that he participated with as a capital. You do have a right to take it and do whatever you see, fitting in the business to benefit the business. You don't need to take his permission for that. So by virtue of the nature of this partnership, once you sign it, that means you agree that your partner has a right to take any part of your property and give it to, and do with it whatever he thinks and he believes to be good for the business. You get it? That's why they said in this kind of partnership, each and every one of these partners, they are agent for the other one. I'm the agent of my partner and he's my agent. So whatever he does is like I'm the one who's doing it. Okay, so I guess it is very clear. وفي الاصطلاح الفقهي هي أن يشترك اثنان أو أكثر في مال لهما على أن يعمل فيه معا والربح بينهما. According to the istilah of the scholars, what is شركة العنان? They say أن يشترك اثنان أو أكثر, to have two people signing a contract, an agreement. An agreement في مال لهما, to invest the wealth that was combined, that was a combined wealth from both of them, that was gathered from both of them. Okay, you have two people or more than two people who are participating in investing the wealth that comes from both of them. So that means both of the two partners or three partners or all of the partners, they participated in providing the capital. على أن يعمل فيه معا. And the part of the agreement says they have to all, participate in the management also. And the profit should go to all of them according to whatever they agreed upon. واتفق الفقهاء من كافة المذاهب على مشروعيتها. All the scholars from every madhab agree that this partnership is okay. Okay, there is no controversy concerning the matter of this partnership according to all the scholars. Okay. واختلفوا في شروطها, but when it comes to the conditions to be fulfilled in order for it to be halal, then you have differences. Each madhab is having certain conditions which you might not find them from, being said by the other madhab. فاشترط الحنفية أن يكون المال حاضرا. So according to the Ahnaf, they said the wealth has to be present. So that means the capital must be present. You cannot use a loan or something that is not present as a capital. أن يكون المال حاضرا غير دين بشرط المساواة التامة في التصرف في المال. And the condition for this to be, they said they have to be also equal in terms of ability to dispose and utilize the wealth, they have to be equal in terms of management. They have to be equal in terms of management. So this equality, if it is imposed, then it will turn into another type of sharika. Okay, that's Sharikatsu al-Mufawwada. واشترط بعض المالكية 4 شروط. الأول استواء المالين في الجنس والصفة. Some of the scholars of the madhab of the Malikiyah, they mention 4 conditions to be fulfilled for it to be permissible. The first condition is the capital, okay, the malin, the capital, whatever you participate in, what I give and what you're giving, they have to be equal in terms of jins and also sifa. They have to be naturally equal, and also the type is the same. I give rice, you give rice. I give car, you give car. I give house, you give house. I give money, you give money. I give dollars, you give dollars. I give Dinar, you give dinar. I give riyal, you give riyal. I don't know. So that's the first condition mentioned by some of the Maliki scholars. وَالثَّانِي خَلْطُهُمَا. The second condition is they have to be mixed. The moment I have the ability to say, this is mine, this is yours, then it is not partnership anymore. وَالثَّالِثُ إِذْنُ كُلِّ وَاحِدٍ مِّنْهُمَا فِي التَّصَرُّفِ. The third condition is each and every one of them should give permission for the other one to be able to dispose and do and invest, in that which belongs to the other one. Because they're going to mix them all together. So it doesn't even make sense if you tell him, I don't agree with you to use my money. والرابع اتفاقهما على الربح والخسران على قدر المال. And they have to also agree that they have to share the profit and the loss according to their participation in the capital. If you participate in the capital 10%, that means 10% of the profit should go to you. When there is a loss, 10% of the loss should go to you. If you participate in 50%, 50% of the profit should go to you, and 50% of the loss should go to you, if any. واشترط الشافعية اختلاط المالين فلا بد أن يكونا متحدين في الجنس والصفة. The Shafi'iyya, they said the wealth, they have to be equal in terms of nature and type, just like the Ahnaf and also the Malikiyya. Okay. Almost all of them are going for this. Okay. The Malikiyya, they said اتفاقهما في الجنس. Okay. They don't, Ahnaf, they don't mention this, but the Maliki, those scholars from the Malikiyya, they said they have to be equal in terms of jins and sifa. The same goes to the Shafi'iyya. Okay. بينما اشترط الحنابلة حضور المالين والعلم بمقدارهما. Hanabila, they said the wealth should be present. It should be present, has to be present, just like the Ahnaf. Okay, it has to be present. And both have to know how much everyone is participating. And I guess nobody amongst the scholars will ignore these conditions, especially this last one, al-ilm. Because in transaction, ilm is a key, is a necessary condition for that transaction to be permissible. قال كما اختلف الفقهاء في جوازها بالعرض دون الأموال واشتراط التساوي في الربح. And also they have differences of opinion concerning the necessity of having the sharika of al-inan in amwal faqat, in cash. I'm sorry, not in amwal, but in cash. Cash means ringgit, real, dinar, dollars, currency. You cannot make it in kind. Kind like rice, food, vegetables, cars, houses. They have differences, very long differences among the scholars. Almost every madhab has some restriction. Some of them accept this, some of them don't accept that. But usually, I guess the applications nowadays in the banks, they accept almost everything that is ma'al. That's closer to the opinion of the Malikis. The next is Sharikatsu Mufawada. So we are done with the Sharikatsu Inan. Now we move to Sharikatsu Mufawada. Sharikatsu Mufawada هي شركة المال التي يتساوى فيها الشركاء في المال والتصرف. So in Sharikatsu Mufawada, this is when you have both, all the partners, everyone who is participating in this sharika, they are equal in terms of their participation in the capital, and they're equal in terms of their participation in the management. So that means they participate the same, 100% the same type of capital, the same amount of capital, the same nature of capital, and they are also supposed to be participating in the same nature of management. So that means they all manage the business equally. They manage the business equally. فكل شريك في الشركات المفاوضة وكيل فيها يثبت من حق للشركة يثبت من حق للشركة وكفيل فيها يثبت عليها. He says فكل شريك في شركة المفاوضة وكيل فيها. He says every partner in شركة المفاوضة is wakil, is an agent. Okay, I'm agent of my partner and he is also my agent. So that means if I'm an agent, that means I can establish right for the company and I also can establish liability. That's why at the same time I'm a guarantor also. Okay, I can establish responsibility, liabilities, and I can also establish right, for the sharika on behalf of everyone. وأجاز الجمهور من الفقهاء شركة المفاوضة. Most of the scholars agree with the sharika al-mufawada. So most of the scholars agree with the sharika al-mufawada. ومنع منها الشافعية. You have the scholars of the Shafi'iyya, they don't agree with that. ولم يروا جوازها. They don't agree with it to be halal. Okay, because you cannot quantify the effort, who is going to do this, who is going to do that. We don't know how much this one is going to be participating in. And that is also a condition mentioned by some of them that in Sharikat al-Mufawada, all the partners must be Muslim. All the partners have to be Muslim. This is very necessary also, especially in time we're living in. When we go for Mufawada, then we have to be dealing with Muslims alone. You have to be dealing with Muslims alone. We don't want to exaggerate and go beyond the limit. We might say you have to deal with those people who are the same as you in terms of halal and haram. Because even amongst the Muslims, there are some who might not see what you see to be halal, what you see to be haram. And that would be a problem. So that's the reason why they said if the management is supposed to be coming from both and equally distributed amongst them, then these participants must be Muslims. Because if you're going to sign a contract of mufawada with a non-Muslim, tomorrow if he decided to sell wine, if he decided to sell pork, if he decided to sell anything that is not halal, how would you stop him then? Because you're going to tell him that, yes, it's okay according to my religion, and he's going to tell you according to my religion it's not okay. You're going to tell him according to my religion it's not okay. He will tell you according to my religion it's okay. And he has the authority to manage the business. As such, how can you stop him from doing that which is displeasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? واشترط الحنفية عقدها بلفظ المفاوضة لما يتضمنه هذا اللفظ من معنى الوكالة والكفالة دون غيرها. The Hanaf, they said, is a condition for it to be halal for the partners to mention the word mufawada in it, for what took. So all of them in agreement, it has to be written that this is mufawada. Each and every one of them yufawwidhu sahibahu. Is assigning and giving authority to his partner to do this and that. They said this is necessary. The word has to be used because it contains kafala and wakala in it. Kafala is a guarantor. Kafala is a guarantee, and wakala is an agency. ولا بد من استواء الشركاء في المال بينهم فلو تفاوتت مقدار ما أسهم به كل واحد كل منهم من المال بطلت المفاوضة ابتداء وانتهاء. And also scholars said if you want to go for mufawada, then the wealth being provided by all of them as a capital must be equal. If one of them gave 10,000, the other one also 10,000. If one of them gave 100,000, the other one also should be like that. If one of them gave rice, the other one also rice. It has to be equal. If one of them is more than the other one, then mufawada is gone, cannot be established at all. The next, Sharikatul Milk. So we are done with the mufawada. Now we move to milk. Sharikatul Milk. What is Sharikatul Milk? If you remember, last time I told you we have two types of sharika. Sharikatul Amlak, that's Sharikatul Milk, and Sharikatul Uqud. All of those that I have mentioned, Amwal and Inan, these are part of Sharikatul Uqud. So now we talk about Sharikatul Amlak, and milk a little bit, and then we go back to Sharikatul Al-Uqud, inshallah. So Sharikatul Milk هي الشركة بين اثنين فأكثر في تملك شيء بسبب من أسباب الملك What is Sharikatul Milk? Since we are talking about milk, that's ownership. What does that mean? هي الشركة بين اثنين فأكثر. This is the Sharika partnership between two people or more. في تملك, when it comes to owning, in the ownership of something by any cause. So we're talking about ownership. We're not talking about contract. So we're talking about ownership by any cause of ownership. Okay? By any cause of ownership. The point is, you have one thing which is owned by 2, 3 people. كأن يشتري اثنان مثلا مالا أو يوهب لهما. For instance, they bought something. They bought a car, they bought a house, or they were given a car or given a house. أو يوصى لهما به ويقبل. Or somebody gave them a wealth and they accepted. Somebody gave them a wealth and they accepted. Or somebody make a wasiyah that if he dies, this amount of his wealth should go to so and so person. أو يرثه, or they inherited the wealth. فيصير ذلك مشتركا بينهما. So as such, this wealth which is given to them, or they own it by their money, it will be مشترك بينهما. مشترك بينهما means they jointly own the wealth. Okay, they jointly own the wealth. So it goes back to their ownership, both of them. So they're not having sometimes, any business proposition amongst them. It's just the mere ownership that exists amongst them. قال فيصير ذلك مشتركا بينهما وتسمى أيضا شركة الشيوع. Sometimes it is called شركة الشيوع. شيوع means not to be able to differentiate which one is your part. But you have a share in it, but which one is yours, you don't know. وتنقسم شركة الملك باعتبار صفة المال المشترك فيه إلى شركة الدين وشركة غير الدين. وتنقسم باعتبار سبب حصولها إلى شركة جبر وشركة اختيار. ولا يجوز لأحد الشركاء في شركة الملك التصرف في غير نصيبه إلا بالتراضي. So this sharika, looking at the nature of the wealth in which these people are arranging and signing the agreement of partnership in, looking at the nature of the wealth, it is divided into 2 categories. Sharikatu ad-dain or Sharikatu ghayr ad-dain. Dain is the debt, a loan. Sharika that is based on loan, and the Sharika that is not based on loan. And وباعتبار سبب حصولها, and looking at the cause, the cause of that Sharika to take place, it is also divided into 2 categories. Sharikatu Jabrin wa Sharikatu Ikhtiyari. We have Sharika that is based on Jabr. Jabr means involuntarily, something that happens without your participation in, something that you cannot stop. It comes like that, like the inheritance. When a person's father died, the wealth is transferred to the heirs. Whether they like it or they don't like it, Allah's part already granted it to them. They don't want it, they give it something else. So these are things that a person cannot deny. Okay, that's the jabr. Ikhtiyar is like al-ishtirak fi shay'in mawhub, wuhiba lahuma. They have the partnership with something that somebody gave it to them. They do have a right to take it and they do have a right to reject it. That's why they call it ikhtiyar. Or they jointly agreed to buy something and they bought it. They are both the owners of the item, but nobody forced them to do that. They can stay away from it. They can accept it and they can stay away from it. That's why they call one of them voluntary, and the other one is not voluntary. So I guess this is very simple. So you have the Sharikat al-Amlak. This is a partnership in ownership. So it can happen voluntarily and it might not happen voluntarily. One that happens involuntarily is like the Sharika in the inheritance. Okay? Sharika in the inheritance. The example of the second one is the partnership that takes place between 2 people based on them agreeing to buy something. or somebody gave them something as a gift and they both accepted. So this is Sharikatsu al-Amlak. The next slide is dealing with munaqasa. Munaqasa. What is munaqasa? For you to know the munaqasa, if you are aware of the bay' al-muzayada, or the haraj, they call it sometimes in some places, the bidding, whereby I bring my car and then I want people to come and offer me whatever they want. The highest price, I go with it. This is the opposite. You have the tender that usually comes from the government, and the government will be given the announcing about the tender. So people will come and give their proposal, how much they can provide this item, until we reach the smallest amount, of price, and then we take it. This is what munaqasa means. So that one is muzayada. Somebody will say, I buy 20,000. Another person will come and say 50,000. Another person will come and say 100,000. Another person will come and say million. And there we go, until the time nobody's willing to go beyond that, and then he will sell it to the last one. In the munaqasa, it goes down. Because this one is the mushtari is looking for something. Mushtari is the buyer. Somebody wants to buy something, and he tells the suppliers, okay, I want this. Everyone should bring his offer. So the invoice will come, and then he checks and see what the price is. The lowest one he takes from him. So it says here, المناقصة وهي مصطلح قانوني حديث وحقيقته. This is a new terminology that exists. وحقيقته, new terminology that exists in this modern contemporary era. وحقيقة أن يعرض المشتري شراء السلعة الموصوفة بأوصاف معينة فيتنافس البائع في عرض البيع بثمن أقل. This is when you have the mushtari, who is the buyer, will come and tell the ba'a. Ba'a means the sellers, suppliers. I'm looking for a car with these specifications and descriptions. So whoever can give me a good price, I will take from him. So then people will be participating in offering him their prices. ويرسل البيع على من رضي بأقل سعر. So he's going to agree and take from the person who agreed with the lowest price. As long as it meets his needs, he will just take it from the lowest one. قال وفي عصرنا الحاضر أصبحت المناقصة طريقة نظامية خاضعة لنظام محدد لشراء سلعة أو خدمة تلتزم فيها الإدارة أو الجهة الإدارية بدعوة المناقصين التقديم عطاءاتهم وعروضهم وفق شروط ومواصفات محددة لأجل الوصول إلى أرخص عطاء بافتراض تساوي العطاءات في سائر المواصفات والشروط. This is what I have just mentioned earlier, that usually government does that. They have institutions, muassasat, universities, government sectors, and whatsoever. Usually they have this. Okay, when that is something, they want something to be done, they announce. They give somebody who will announce to the companies. So they'll be looking for quotations from different companies until the time they get the best and lowest price, also looking for how to save the cost. So they will be looking for the one who will offer them good in terms of quality, and also in terms of price is good in the sense of it being lesser than the previous one. Then they will just take from whoever is lesser than the others, as long as they are fulfilling the conditions specified in the offer. Okay, the next type of sharika al-uqud, is sharikat al-wujuh. Okay, we have sharikat al-wujuh. What is sharikat al-wujuh? Al-wajh is the face. Usually when you say wajh is the face, al-karama, and honor and dignity. But here we're talking about credit worthiness, and we're talking about credibility, good manner, good behavior, recognition, fame. This is the wajh here. وهي اتفاق اثنين أو أكثر لهم وجاهة لدى الناس ولا مال لهم على الشراء نسيئة والبيع نقدا واقتسام الربح بينهم. This شركة الوجوه happens when you have 2 or 3 people who will agree to jointly own something which they cannot afford it actually financially. They don't have the money to buy it. But at the same time, they are very famous in the market. They have people who know them. They're honest. They're good. They're umana, they're trustworthy people. So they agree. Come, let's make an agreement to open up a company. So how do we make it since we don't have the money? They will go to the business people, the traders, the businessman. They will borrow from them. They will buy something from them on credit. They will buy something from them on credit. They will not buy it cash because they don't have the money. So they will buy on credit. And the agreement between them is we're going to buy these items. I will just go and buy it on credit, and you also get it on credit. We come and put it all together. We invest both of them, and then we share the profit among us. So how did they get the items and the properties and the goods? They got it by their credit, by their wujud, because when they go to the people will recognize them and they will trust them and they will give them the properties. The goods will be given to them on credit, and then they will pay the money later. So when they generate a profit, they are going to take the profit, and then the capital, they will return it back to those people who they owe money. I guess this is very clear. وقد عرفها الحنفية بقولهم أن يشترك الرجلان بغير رأس مال على أن يشتريا بالنسيئة ويبيعا. So this is exactly the same as the first one, just in terms of wording, because they're talking about 2 people who are making an agreement to be partners to each other, and they don't have any rasul mal, any capital with them. But they're going to buy things. Nasi'ata means on credit. They're going to buy it on credit. They're going to take loan and they will pay later. So that's exactly what we said afterwards. What we said, earlier. وأجاز شركة الوجوه الحنفية والحنابلة بشروط. So this type of sharika, this type of partnership is accepted by Ahnaf and also the Hanabila. Okay? The Ahnaf and the Hanabila. وأبطلها المالكية والشافعية لأن الشركة مبناها وجود مال أو عمل ولا مال ولا عمل في شركة الوجوه. The Malikis and the Shafi'is, students and the Shuyukh, they said, we don't agree with this, because they said usually sharika is supposed to be based on mal and also based on work. And here there is no capital and there is no service, there is no work, there is no management, there is no khidmah, there is no amal. But this might not be true, because in the sharikat al-wujuh, there is amal. The only thing is they don't have the capital. If we say this credit worthiness is not capital, which nowadays is not true, because it could be converted. This fame, your face that people recognize you, people trust you. This one is very big capital. A person can invest in it a lot, because you have a lot of companies. They don't need you to come. They just need you to talk to somebody, because if you talk to that person will trust the company. So it could be converted nowadays in the time we're living in into a capital itself. That's why, wallahu alam, the opinion that says it's okay is the best opinion, inshallah ta'ala. وتسمى شركة الوجوه أيضا شركة الذمم وشركة المفاليس وشركة الوجاهة. These are all names given to شركة الوجوه. Sometimes it is called شركة المفاليس, sometimes it is called شركة الذمم, sometimes it is called شركة الوجاهة. So the most important thing is to remember these names so that you will not get confused. When you see it, you remember that, yes, the scholars are talking about the same thing. The next is الشركة والمضاربة. الشركة في إصلاح الفقهاء هي الاجتماع في تصرف أو ملك. This one we already defined شركة. Okay, we already defined شركة. What the شركة means, الاجتماع في تصرف أو ملك. Okay, you have partnership in management and ownership. وتنقسم إلى شركة ملك وشركة عقد. This one also we talk about the classifications of the sharika earlier. We have شركة الأملاك and we have شركة العقود. والمضاربة نوع من شركات العقد. And mudaraba, according to some scholars, is a kind of شركة العقد. شركة العقد means شركة العقود. According to the Hanabila, mudaraba is sharika also. It's kind of sharika, and that's the truth. Although many scholars believe that mudaraba is ijara, not sharika. Al-ijaratu bil majhul. But wallahu alam, if you look at it, is really, if we accept sharikat al-wujuh to be sharika, and mudaraba is much closer to sharikat than sharikat al-wujuh. How does mudaraba happen? Mudaraba happen when إذا تعاقد فيها طرفان، على حيث يتعاقد فيها طرفان، أحدهما يقدم المال ويسمى صاحب المال، وأما الطرف الثاني فيعمل في ذلك المال ويسمى المضارب أو عامل المضاربة. This is when you have two people. One of them is going to provide the capital. He will provide the wealth. And we call this person ويسمى صاحب المال. The one who provides the capital, we call him capital provider. This is صاحب المال in Arabic, capital provider. وأما الطرف الثاني فيعمل في ذلك المال. The entrepreneur, the second party, he is supposed to manage the wealth. So one of them is providing the wealth, the capital, and the other one is managing the capital. ويسمى المضارب. We call him المضارب أو عامل المضاربة, or we call him عامل المضاربة. ويكون الربح مقسوما بينهما حسب الاتفاق. And they're going to share the profit according to whatever they agree upon. حسب الاتفاق. So this type of partnership is legal. It's halal. The Prophet ﷺ used to do it before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent him to humankind. He used to do it in the wealth of Khadija. And the Arabs also used to participate in it. And before I concluded and move to the last slide, there is just a point that I want you to remember, that this mudaraba was known to the Arabs. It's not something new. You might hear some people are saying that this mudaraba is new, is accepted by the scholars through the means of ijtihad. So that's absolutely wrong, and it is incorrect. Okay, they know it exactly. They know it exactly. Prophet ﷺ used to do it, and the Arabs used to do it. If you want to get the confirmation for this, you should look at the author, part of the history that says there was a time Umar radiallahu anhu sent a group of army to a place. On the way back, they passed through the Kufa or Basra, and they found Abu Musa al-Ash'ari there. He was the then governor in that place. And he couldn't find anything to support the children of Amir al-Mu'minin Umar, that's Ubaydullah and Abdullah. So he gave them, he said, Bala hahuna malu min malillah. He said, take it to Umar. And on the way, you can just invest it. You know, when you reach Umar, give him the capital and the profit, you take it. When they went to Umar, they told him about this. And Umar said, what does that mean? What are you talking about? You have to take the capital and the profit, and you put them both in the Bayt al-Muslimin. They said, no, if this wealth is to be missing, who will be responsible in paying? He said, you will be responsible in paying. So they said, that's it. If we are responsible to pay it, we should be also, part of the profit gaining, the profit gain. They said we should be part of it also. That's what the legal maxim al-kharaj bil-daman wal-ghunmu bil-ghurmi means. You're responsible of something, so when there is gain, also you should be responsible. You should be a partner, you should be sharing in that. You should be benefiting, you should be gaining that one also. So Umar did not make comment on the ijtihad, but he says, no, I don't agree. You should take the whole thing and put it in the Bayt al-Muslimin. So Abdurrahman ibn Auf, who was with them, and he heard the conversation between Umar and his children. Umar is not going to submit, and the children also are not willing to submit to Umar. Abdurrahman ibn Auf said, Ya Amir al-Mu'minin, since your children are not going to agree, and you don't want to agree with them, why can't you make it qirar? And this qirar is second name, the other name for the mudaraba. So when he said, why can't you make it qirar? And Umar agreed with that. What does that mean? It means it is known to them. So I'm just mentioning this to you so that we'll not be deceived by what you might hear from some of the contemporary speakers or scholars or writers when they tell you mudaraba is ijtihad, based on ijtihad, so that they can modify, and play with it in the way, many of the banks are playing with the Islamic terms, and they put them in the way they want. That's why I'm telling you this is one of the most important classes that you should be looking for in your life. This class that you attended, this is one of the most important classes, especially when you are a businessman, because you need to know these terms. What does Sharia means by them, so that tomorrow if somebody modify them, you can easily tell him, no, the scholars never know this. This is something else which has to be weighed, in the scale, to see whether it fits the Sharia, it complies with the Sharia, or it goes against the Sharia. Yes, that's the reason why I said it's really important. So that's the mudaraba. قال ويكون الربح مقسوما بينهما حسب الاتفاق. So they share the profit. So one of them is providing the capital, and the second one is providing the management, and they share the profit when there is a profit amongst them in percentage. Okay, they cannot fix the profit sharing. They have to keep it in percentage. وأما الخسارة فإنها تكون على صاحب المال. As for the loss, it is supposed to be borne by who? By the صاحب المال, the owner of the capital provider. Get it? But both of them are losing because this amil, the worker, he also put a lot of effort. If we quantify the effort and we value it, it might be so big, at the size of the capital, who knows? So both of them are losing. This one is losing his effort, and the other one is losing what? The other one is losing his wealth. Okay, the last slide is al-adala. Al-adala lughatan hiya at-tawassut wal-istiqama. Okay, that will be the last. Al-adala lughatan hiya at-tawassut wal-istiqama. At-tawassut, to be moderate. Okay. At-tawassut is to be moderate. At-tawassut is to be moderate. Wal-istiqama is to remain steadfast. At-tawassut is to be moderate. And moderation, when we say moderation in Islam, we are talking about you doing things correctly. We're not talking about the wasatiyya, which is promoted nowadays, whereby people want you to be in the middle. You're not with halal and not with haram. You're neither with halal, neither with haram. You accept all. Okay, that's not Islam. That's against Islam. That has never been iqtisad in Islam. Al-iqtisad and wasatiyya in Islam is to follow the Prophet ﷺ and the Sharia of Allah precisely. Do not exaggerate. Do not go beyond the limit. Do not do things which you're not asked to do. Do not go beyond the limit. Do not push yourself so much in the way you will go beyond the limit. Okay, that's al-tawassut. So when we say adala, we're talking about at-tawassut wal-istiqama. What tasawi, and to have equality. So all of these are based on the literal meaning of the word al-adala. Okay, but if the fuqaha, the scholars said al-adala, what are they talking about? They're talking about ijtinabul kaba'iri wa adamul israri ala as-saghair. Staying away from the major sins, وعدم الإصرار على الصغائر, and not to remain committing the minor sins. That's why the poet says, العدل من يجتنب الكبائر ويتقي في الأغلب الصغائر. العدل من يجتنب الكبائر ويتقي في الأغلب الصغائر. Al-Adl, the one who is trustworthy, who is described with adala, is somebody who stays away from major sins and tries his best as much as he could to stay away from the minor sins. Because there is no way to find somebody who is not committing sin in this life. This person doesn't exist. The Prophet ﷺ said, كل ابن آدم خطاء وخير الخطائين التوابون. we're going to commit sin from time to time out of negligence, or sometimes also shaitan might deceive some of us to do it intentionally. But alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always providing us with what? The way out. As long as we want the way out, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always providing us with the way out. That's a tawbah. You get it? The issue is not about committing the sin. The issue about you being conscious and understanding that this is against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and coming back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Are you doing that or not? Okay. Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, if you're not going to commit sin and repent, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will destroy you all and bring others who will repent whenever they commit sin. You get the idea? So we should pay attention to this. So al-adl means somebody who is staying away from the major sins, and also tries his best to stay away from the minor sins. And when they happen from him, the minor sins, he repents to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَقِيلَ هِيَ اسْتِوَاءُ أَحْوَالِ الشَّخْصِ فِي دِينِهِ وَاعْتِدَالِ أَقْوَالِهِ وَأَفْعَالِهِ. They said, some scholars, they said, to have somebody who is standing upright, who remains steadfast. That means al-istiqamah fi ad-din. Al-istiqamah fi al-aqwal, al-istiqamah fi al-af'al, and somebody who is very straightforward, very dedicated to the Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A moderate person in terms of whatever he does. Somebody who follows the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam precisely in the way the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned to us, sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وقيل صفة في الإنسان تحمله على اجتناب الكبائر وعدم الإصرار على الصغائر. This one is like the previous one. It's an attribute, natural disposition that you have in a person, which is motivating and pushing a person, and always putting him in the position where he stays away from minor sins. Stays away from the major sins and try his best to stay away from the minor sins and repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from time to time. وَتَجَنَّبُ مَا فِي خِسَّةٍ مِنَ التَّصَرُّفَاتِ, and staying away from any kind of shameful activity. So these are the things for today, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So as you can see, we studied the partnership, that's the sharika, and we studied the sharika in general, what does it mean, and we study also the classifications of sharika, the two types of sharika, sharikatul uqud and sharikatul amlak. And sharikatul amwal, this is the partnership that is based on investment, and we study the sharikatul inan. These are all part of the partnership in uqud, in a contractual partnership they call it. We study the sharikatul mufawada. This is the equal share partnership. We study that one. We study that one, and we study also sharikatul milk. And also we study al-munaqasa, we study sharikatul wujuh, and we study al-sharikatul mudaraba, and lastly we study something about al-adala, which is at-tawassut wal-i'tidal, or moderation. And I told you what moderation is all about. So that's all for today, inshallah. I hope bi'idhnillahi ta'ala you guys enjoy some, inshallah. As I said, whenever you need something, my personal WhatsApp or the group is there. Do let me know, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. I will address it, inshallah ta'ala, as much as I can. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant you good. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put barakah in you and your life. Hoping to see you, inshallah, in the next session. Barakallahu feekum. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.